This is Princess Steps Spring 2021, Week 7. Week 7. And the topic tonight is nutrition. And we have Whitney Lundy, who is a dietitian, and I'll let her tell you a little bit more about her credentials. But Whitney is no stranger to the clinic. She's been with us many, many years. She knows you. She knows all of you out there, okay? And so I'm going to let Whitney talk about her nutrition tips and tricks tonight. So excited to have Whitney, always excited, and here she is.
Thank you, Susan. Okay, so my name is Whitney. I am one of the cheetah leaders for this clinic, and I am also a registered dietitian. I own a private practice here in Salem. The bulk of my clients are individuals struggling with eating disorders, but I do still see people for issues like high blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes, that sort of thing. I decided to come at tonight's talk from a different angle, so we'll kind of see how it goes. I wrote it last night, so I'm going to do kind of a lot of reading here. But so why did I change my talk up? As a society, we are just so accustomed to coming at nutrition through the lens of weight loss diets. We judge and shame fat people for simply existing in their bodies. We threaten our kids with the consequences of weight gain. We are a society that literally drives people into disordered eating, and the result is we just keep getting larger. Each generation is larger than the previous generation. The way that we are currently feeding our bodies, the way we're coming at food, just is not working. I totally understand the allure of dieting. I think that most of us can recall like that first diet or the first few diets we were on where we had like major weight loss and it felt great. And then what happens when we come off plan, we gain all that weight back and then some, right? And the emotional low that comes with the experience of gaining that weight back can feel absolutely crushing. So what do? We're chasing that weight loss experience again. And what happens is we're landing ourselves on this diet roller coaster. The only entity that this serves is the $71 billion diet industry.
Move one step this way. There. There. Okay. Now you're centered.
So the diet industry, they are literally banking on you falling off of plan because if you succeeded, now you're not a repeat customer, right? But here's the deal. Every single one of us deserves to take up space on this earth, however much space that might be. We deserve to take up space. You have the right to not constantly be restricting yourself or food ruling yourself in an attempt to reach a body that you were never designed to be in. You can improve blood pressure, lipid panel, A1C, etc., without putting the emphasis on weight loss. Okay? So tonight we're not talking about weight loss. Instead, I'm going to talk about how to find a more peaceful, sustainable, and healthy approach to feeding yourself. First, why don't diets work in the long term for most of us? It's because of set point theory. Okay, what this says is, by birth, we're already programmed with our set point weight range for adulthood. And this is the weight range that we are already programmed to land at when we're adults. This is going to be a different range for everybody. But when we impose any sort of restriction on ourselves, brain responds to this threat to survival by actually recalibrating our set point higher. So now the body changes metabolic processes in an attempt to reach this perceived safer weight, okay? So now we're at a higher weight. And what do? we panic, we feel badly about ourselves, and so we start a new diet, right? And what happens is we put ourselves on this weight cycling. The problem with weight cycling is it actually has a number of health risks, okay? And these risks include increased risk of central adiposity, which is associated with increased inflammation, increased risk of type 2 diabetes, lipid disorders, metabolic syndrome, and coronary artery disease. So what does sustainable, healthy eating look like? It's actually much simpler than you've been led to believe. We want you emphasizing water, fruits and vegetables, beans, peas, lentils, whole grains, healthy fats like nuts, seeds, avocado, tofu, fatty fish, avocado oil, and olive oil. And we want you to include lean and plant-based proteins like tofu, edamame, tempeh, fish, seafood, and lean poultry. We encourage you to limit fast food, fatty animal products, refined grains and processed foods, alcohol and sweetened beverages. That's really the bulk of it. You need carbohydrate. You need healthy fats. And you also need protein. And you need these in a much tighter ratio than most fad diets will lead you to believe. Carbohydrates are the preferred source of fuel for our body. If we allow our body to run on carbohydrate for the most part, this frees up protein and fat to be used for a variety of essential functions that they are needed for in the body that carbohydrates cannot be used for. Can protein or fat be used for energy? Yes, absolutely. But if we're going to make the body use fat or protein for energy, then it's not going to be able to use it for all of the other essential functions. Carbohydrates also provide rapid fuel in the form of glucose, and then it also provides like an intermediate fuel in the form of glycogen in our liver and our skeletal tissues. Carbohydrates also give us fiber, and fiber, it minimizes blood sugar, it helps to protect against insulin resistance, it helps to reduce inflammatory response, lowers cholesterol, decreases the risk of heart disease, and increases satiety. So carbohydrates are actually pretty important. Okay? Proteins get broken down into amino acids, and these are used in things like tissue maintenance and repair, hormone regulation, storage and transport of various molecules. They function as enzymes in nearly all of the enzyme-driven chemical reactions in our body, and they're involved in antibody formation, which is pretty timely at the moment. And these antibodies work in conjunction with other immune system cells. Our fats, they also provide a variety of essential functions. They're a vital part of cell membranes. They're involved in organ insulation, core temperature regulation. They're involved in vitamin absorption of vitamins A, D, E, and K. They help to regulate the production of our sex hormones. The unsaturated fatty acids actually help to stabilize cholesterol levels. And the essential fatty acids, linoleic and linolenic, they're vital for our central nervous system, blood clotting, and controlling inflammation. Fruits and vegetables are the other important component here. Why? Well, thanks to phytonutrients, our plant foods have antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties, helping to actually prevent and or mitigate disease, ultimately supporting improved quality of life and length of life. Research shows that the greater the abundance and the greater the variety of fruits and vegetables in a person's diet, the better their long-term health outcomes. So this is why we encourage people to eat a wide variety of fruits and vegetables. We're not advocating for fruits and vegetables as a weight loss hack, okay? They truly do serve important functions. If we are doing anything with the exclusive motivation of weight loss, we are going to grow so resentful of it when the weight loss efforts fail, okay? What are some things that we can do right now to improve our eating habits? First and foremost, put away your screens. Put down the phone, put down your tablet, turn off the TV. put the screens away during meal times, okay? If the silence is unnerving, go ahead and put a little background music on, that's fine, okay? Let's say you sit down and you're giving that meal your full attention and it feels really uncomfortable. That's actually pretty common, and that's okay. Acknowledge that discomfort and see if you can kind of tease out why it feels so uncomfortable for you, okay? Our brains need multi-sensory engagement, okay? So if our attention is split between our cell phones or the TV and our food, then what's happening is our brain is actually missing out on the full sensory experience that's required for us to actually achieve full satiety or satisfaction, okay? When this happens, we're actually asking our brain to rely almost strictly on our physical fullness cues, and our physical fullness cues are delayed. So by the time our brain registers, hey, we're full, most of the time we've already overeaten, okay? In addition to this, your food is literally keeping you alive. Give it the attention that it deserves, okay? Put the screens away, eliminate the distraction at meals, and be willing to take more time with that meal, okay? When you sit down to your plate, with your eyes, note the variety of colors, shapes, and textures on the plate, okay? How does the ratio of food to the plate feel to you? Is it overcrowded? Does it feel too empty? These are all things to be noticing when you sit down to your meal. With your nose, actually take a moment to notice the scent of your food. Can you detect different scents from the different components on the plate? Does it actually make you feel hungrier? Are the smells familiar, or have you tried something new and you're smelling something new? Okay. And then when you finally take a bite, pay attention to the taste, the mouthfeel, the texture. Notice how the taste of the food actually changes through the course of the meal, okay? So does the 5th or 10th or 15th bite taste just as vibrant as the first? Most of us at this point are unable to answer that question because we're either checked out with a screen or we're so in our head with the shoulds and shouldn'ts of the food on our plate, we're just not paying attention to the food. Okay? Other things to think about. Take your time. Chew thoroughly. Pause in between some of the bites. You don't have to adhere to this bizarre rule of putting your fork down after every single bite. That's so tedious and that would take forever. I've heard that many times before, okay? But be willing to take an occasional pause. Let your brain actually catch up to the experience that's happening. You're gonna want to ask yourself, am I still hungry? Am I starting to get kind of bored? Am I thinking that I might be done here? And then at the very end of the meal, take a moment to do a reflection. What did I enjoy? What did I not enjoy? What would I change about this meal experience? Do I feel like I need more food? Okay. As extreme or ridiculous as all of these steps sound, if you're willing to commit to this type of sensory engagement at your meals, free of distraction, I promise you, it will change your approach to the food that you are eating. Okay. I want to go through just a few of the common pitfalls to sustainable healthy eating that I see in my practice outside of eating disorders. One of the most common is waiting as long as possible before eating or adhering to a strict meal schedule. Some examples of this are going to be, I'm really hungry, but it isn't time to eat for another couple of hours. Or, okay, but if I add another snack, I'll just be adding more calories to my day. When we do this, survival brain gets panicky, okay? And if we couple this with emotional exhaustion or stress, we are far more likely to overeat once we finally do sit down to eat, okay? You want to come to as many meals and snacks as possible in a calm state, okay? So eat throughout the day. And when you sit down to eat, try to include a complex carb, a healthy fat, and a protein. If you need a list of ideas, let me know and I'm happy to help you out with that, okay? If you find yourself grazing as soon as you get home, or you feel like you tend to overeat at dinner, start actually planning a late afternoon snack. Okay? You can even eat it in the car on your way home. It really doesn't matter if it's only 30 or 40 minutes until dinner. If we're actually acknowledging that hunger and we're responding to it with a small snack, then when we sit down to dinner, we're actually in a much calmer state and we're far less likely to overeat. Okay? So ultimately what we do is by the end of the day, we've eaten an amount of food that's more comfortable for our body. The next pitfall that I typically see is food seeking without a clear purpose. How many people find themselves in the kitchen just kind of, not really checked in, going through the cupboards, right? When you find yourself doing that, cool, take a moment to check in. Are you actually hungry? Are you bored? Are you feeling unsettled? If you're hungry, cool, get yourself a small snack, but sit down with it and eat it free of distraction. Okay? If you find that you're not hungry and it's something else, something kind of emotionally driven, consider brushing your teeth, drinking some water, and turning your attention to something else that brings you some joy or a sense of calm. Okay? Or still grab that snack, but sit down and give it your full attention. The third pitfall I see, setting unrealistic expectations around food. Most of us need to lower our expectations. So often when we decide to start a fitness program, we place such high expectations on ourselves and we'll print off these extreme workout schedules, right? And they're so overwhelming that we quit before we've really even gotten started. However, if we lower that expectation and say we set a goal of walking for 15 minutes 4 times a week, all of a sudden that feels achievable. We're more inclined to actually try to meet that goal, and we're more inclined to succeed. In turn, we feel better about ourselves and we're motivated to set the next goal. Okay? We refer to this as a concept, it's called spiraling up. Okay? So by lowering our expectations around food, we can do the exact same thing. Okay? If you set a goal of eating, 10 servings of vegetables every day and limiting your favorite sweet to once every 4 months, you're gonna fail. That's not gonna be successful. Let's say instead you decide to increase your water intake each day by 16 ounces. Or maybe you set a goal of cooking 1 additional meal at home each week. All of a sudden that actually feels attainable, and there we have something to build upon. So again, it's this concept, lowering those expectations and giving yourself time to spiral up. The final pitfall I very frequently see. This is adhering to food rules. When we are adhering to other people's food rules, we are completely ignoring the needs of our own body and our own mind. Not only that, we begin to judge ourselves against these rules. Are we succeeding? Are we failing? Right? How are we measuring up against that plan? How are we measuring up against those rules? Humans really don't like to experience discomfort. We are masters at avoidance. And so when we feel like we're failing at something, we are going to completely check out, right? And the problem with that is it actually increases our feelings of failure. Well, that really sucks. So we judge ourselves about enough. We really don't need to make food choices a character assessment, okay? And the more emotional energy that we invest into a particular food or behavior, the more likely we are actually to overconsume, okay? So we take that concept of avoiding discomfort, right? Increased discomfort, we're going to choose an avoidance strategy. Eating is actually a very common avoidance strategy. So, emotionally driven, we turn to food. We're eating that food, what happens, we start to feel guilty about it, right? And we start saying pretty negative things to ourselves. Okay, well now we're increasing the discomfort. What does that do? Drives us further into that eating behavior. And we become like these panicked little hamsters on a wheel, and we can't get off, right? So instead, if we can actually go, you know what, it's all right. I can eat this food, it's fine. Let's say it's ice cream. Instead of taking the container of ice cream to the couch, having the TV on, and telling myself I'm a terrible person as I'm eating this, right? I know a lot of people here can identify with this. Instead, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get myself a small dish. I'm gonna say, all right, I'm gonna dish up a little bit. I can always come back for more if I want it, always. But I take that dish to the table instead of to the couch, and while I am sitting with that dish of ice cream, I take some time to actually focus on the fact that, let's say it's chocolate chip, my absolute favorite, right? I'm gonna be thinking to myself, is this my favorite brand? How creamy is it? You know, is it the dark chocolate chip so it's nice and rich, right? I'm gonna be thinking about, why is chocolate chip my favorite? Well, that's because it was my dad's favorite, and so I remember eating ice cream with him all the time, right? When my mind is on these things, what happens is we're increasing the satiety of that experience. And so by the time I walk away from that small dish of ice cream, I'm feeling pretty good, right? Maybe I decide to go grab more. Okay, that's fine. But all of a sudden, it's not a negative experience. It actually felt really, really good. Okay, so we can take some of these foods that we think are off limits, and if we lower our emotional investment in them, in the sense of judgment and shame, all of a sudden, we're again eating an amount that's more comfortable for our bodies. Okay? You guys can totally eat ice cream, but please also remember to eat fruits and vegetables. The less forbidden a food feels, the calmer your mind will be around it. Okay? So forbidden foods, we're always going to be really stressed around them. We're going to get panicky. We're more likely to overconsume them, then feel really terrible about ourselves. So the less forbidden a food feels to us, the calmer we're going to be around it. I have several kind of reflection prompts or journaling prompts. It's about 6 of them that I'm just going to post to the Facebook group either tonight or tomorrow for people who do enjoy journaling. They're a great place to kind of start just exploring your relationship with food. But to close out this talk, I want to take a second to just really drive home the damage that these food rules do. I have grown men on my caseload with heart disease who currently believe that bacon is healthier for them than fruits and beans and lentils. I have people in their 50s and 60s who come to me crying in session because they have been told that fat is bad and carbs are bad and meat is going to kill them, but certain plant foods are also going to kill them, and they don't know what the hell to eat anymore, right? I have several people in 300+ pound bodies who are not eating enough food to sustain even a 10-year-old because people keep telling them, well, you just need to eat less. And I have more teenagers on my caseload than I can count right now who are so terrified to eat because they have been told that almost anything they eat or drink at this point is going to cause weight gain, and the absolute worst thing they can be is fat. This is the damage of food rules, and this is the damage of diet culture. Okay? So please be willing to take a moment to just step back, think about the foods that actually appeal to you, the foods that actually feel good in your body, and if you're holding on to food rules, ask yourself, what purpose are they serving? And if there just might be a kinder approach to food for